the Native Americans' Holocaust and who mimicked it to the Jews. 517 years ago, on this very day, terror, curiosity, rape, murder, slavery, alcohol, deadly diseases, and just cruel hate was sparked on all indigenous people. And who's to blame? Columbus himself. You tell me to honor our Hitler. You tell me to honor our Holocaust. That made almost every one of my people suffer. Well, I'm telling you to honor Indigenous Peoples Day. Thank you.
Shalki, Natiu, Hekat, Ati, Machamara Konazin. I am from the Rebel Alliance Warrior Society, an international movement to reconnect all indigenous people of the world. I represent the Los Angeles Brown Berets Autonomous Chapter today. A long time ago, there was a plan by the few to cause confusion throughout the world. And this confusion is infected and transcended throughout the entire world. Genocide by a man with motivation, not just from himself, but from an entire idea to conquer and enslave the entire world. We have to remember and remind ourselves where our roots are. We have to remind ourselves that we are also infected. We cannot forget and continue to think that we are safe from this infection. We need to decolonize our minds, our bodies, what we put inside our bodies, the way we treat ourselves will transcend to how we treat others. We need to identify with the genocide all over the world. How did Hitler come into power? How did Columbus have the resources to sail across? And what was the motivation? Some say 5 million natives were only here. We were killing ourselves, they say. Some say 50 million. Some say 500. It doesn't matter if it was one that was murdered, or raped, or displaced. I come here as a grain of sand, as one, but yet all. I live and breathe this. I speak and do this. This is not a celebration. This is an identification of who we are. Natives from all over the world. With the place they call Africa, the place they call America, the place they call Asia, the place they call even Europe. For there are still indigenous people in Spain fighting in the mountains to uphold their dignity and their identity. Let us not forget that we have a lot of work to do. Information is key, but the example is stronger. A book is great, but the actual breath and the energy that we release to our relatives into the universe is more vital than how many degrees you can get in these institutions. Let's not be fooled. Educate, get educated, but educate yourself. Learn the stories of our ancestors. Teach the ways of the world. I have learned more from observing the beautiful Mother Earth than any teacher and any book. And I do not downplay education, but I recognize and acknowledge that I am a 9th grade dropout, and I still know who I am. And I do not need confirmation information from an institution, a set system that is made to hail people like Columbus or Cortez.
Yeah.
Wherever they have gone, they cannot get along. Why is that? Who is they? Those that are greedy, those that have no heart. Washichu, Mzungu. Anywhere you go in the world, they know that imperialism, wherever they went, they can never get full. Why is it that all over the world, they found the same, different words, the same meaning to these people? And we have to remind ourselves, they enslaved their own indigenous European brothers and sisters before they went to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
In the whole world is now one of the larger Catholic churches, and in there, the remains of one Cristobal Colon are stashed. The very name Colon, which now means colonies, colonizer, colonialism, and his dead remains are there. My sister said, you know what, big brother, I looked around, nobody's watching, and I spit on his cap. And I gave her a big hug. She said, but that's not all. I looked around again, and I spit on him one time for you, big brother. She always reminds me why I love her so much. 15 years ago, we first visited Santa Barbara, and I was looking where the brothers at. I couldn't find any. My wife said, go on Santa Barbara, UCSB. So I went up there, and I was in my 40s, but I joined the Black Student Union. They're very nice to me, let me join. In the very first meeting, they're all sitting around talking about they were getting ready to celebrate Black Culture Week. And they were planning this and they're planning that. And one sister looked at me and said, well, you're in an organization. What should we do to celebrate Black culture? And I said, well, have you gotten permission yet? And everybody said, oh yeah, the administration this and the students that. And I said, no. Have you asked the Chumash people if you could celebrate African culture on their land? And they were silent. I was shocked because they were kind of embarrassed. They said, no, we didn't ask for permission. How do we do that? I said, well, is AIM around? They said, we don't know. I said, well, how about ASA? They said, yeah, American Indian Student Association. I said, ask them. They'll go for you. 2 weeks later, we come back, and 3 brothers have went and fronted our request to the Chumash elders. And now I know what Moses looked like when he came down off the mountaintop and his face was shining. Because these brothers had this faraway look like Che Guevara staring off into the infinite distance. And they were very changed physically. They were shining. And we're like, what happened? And they said, we waited a long time and we got in before the elders and we presented your request. And everybody burst crying. Tears were flowing and we were scared. We were like, what'd we do? And when the people composed themselves, the elder spoke, and he said, no one, not one non-indigenous person in the whole history of Chumash has ever asked permission to do anything on Chumash land. And they were like, uh-oh, what does that mean? And they said, you go back, and you tell those African youth that from this day forward, any African, anywhere on Chumash land can celebrate her or his culture with our permission. And it just made me wonder what would happen if every African in this hemisphere, every Asian, every Pacific Islander, yes, and every European acted like a good